Most people think Sun Tzu taught the world how to win wars. But what if I told you that the art of war isn't really about fighting at all? What if it's actually a warning about debt, collapse, and the hidden price of power? Because Sun Tzu wasn't obsessed with victory. He was obsessed with the bill that comes afterward. And history shows that the nations who ignored that bill didn't just lose wars, they disappeared. For most people, Sun Tzu is just a name associated with battlefields, generals, and strategy quotes shared by entrepreneurs who've never actually read him. He's treated as a philosopher of victory, a mystical thinker who unlocked the psychology of conflict. But that version of Sun Tzu completely misses the point. Because when you strip away the slogans and the myth-making, you discover something far more unsettling. Sun Tzu wasn't obsessed with winning battles. He was obsessed with avoiding them. He wasn't interested in glory, honor, or domination. He was interested in cost. In a world bleeding itself dry through endless warfare, Sun Tzu made one uncomfortable truth clear. The greatest threat to a state isn't the enemy standing in front of you, it's the bill that arrives afterward. People think the art of war is about fighting. It's really about finance. Welcome to the Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. To understand Sun Tzu's genius, you have to understand the world he lived in. His ideas didn't appear out of thin air. They were forged in a civilization collapsing under the weight of its own ambition. China, during the late spring and autumn period, and the early Warring States era, roughly the 6th to 5th centuries, BCE was a land of fractured kingdoms. Each believed it could unify the world. Each drained its treasury trying. War was constant. Alliances formed and collapsed overnight. Armies grew larger every decade, shifting from aristocratic chariot duels to massive infantry forces that demanded food, metal, logistics, and taxes on a scale never seen before. States weren't just fighting battles. They were stress-testing their economies. Every time a king sent an army into the field, he was effectively taking a loan against the future. And far too often that loan came due. We like to imagine ancient warfare as heroic and tactical. But in Sun Tzu's world, war was logistical before it was anything else. The moment an army moved, the meters started running. You needed wagons, grain, horses, armor, cooks, blacksmiths, porters. All of them had to be fed. A campaign lasting a few months could bankrupt a small state. A campaign lasting a year could cripple even a powerful one. Yet the wars continued. This was an arms race long before the modern world invented the term, and it was pushing the entire system toward collapse. This is the world Sun Tzu walked into, not as a philosopher in quiet contemplation, but as a strategist, confronting an economic crisis disguised as a military one. In the modern West, Sun Tzu is often treated like an ancient motivational speaker. In reality, he was closer to a risk analyst. He looked at the costs, the timelines, the logistics, the resource drain, and he realized something radical. The way states were fighting wars was financially unsustainable. Victory meant nothing if the treasury collapsed. Most rulers believed the enemy's army was the greatest threat. Sun Tzu believed their own spending was. That's why the most important line in The Art of War appears right at the beginning. War is of vital importance to the state, not glorious, not honorable. Vital, meaning dangerous, destabilizing, and capable of destroying the society it claims to protect. The rest of the book is damage control, how to keep war limited, controlled, and as cheap as possible. To most readers, they sound philosophical. But they aren't. They are cost variables. The moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, method, and discipline. These are systems of resource management he's asking. How stable is your society? How resilient are your people? How predictable is your environment? How competent is leadership? How efficient is your administration? This is a risk assessment, centuries before the term existed. And Sun Tzu is clear: if you cannot calculate cost, you have no business calculating strategy. That's why The Art of War is strangely uninterested in heroics. Sun Tzu devotes entire sections to feeding armies. His logic is brutal. He writes that when an army marches 20 miles from home, the price of 100 measures of grain is lost. Distance multiplies cost. Transporting supplies drains the treasury faster than paying soldiers. Maintaining armies in the field collapses agriculture. Reckless commanders, bankrupt nations while winning meaningless skirmishes. Sun Tzu warns rulers to use the enemy's resources whenever possible, not for convenience, for survival. Because logistics don't support strategy. Logistics are strategy. His obsession with intelligence follows the same logic. Single spy can prevent an entire army from marching in the wrong direction. One intercepted message can save a nation from disaster. What enables the wise ruler and the good general, Sun Tzu writes, is foreknowledge, not courage, not force. Foreknowledge in modern language, foreknowledge is data. Sun Tzu understood that misallocating information is the same as misallocating capital. Information is the cheapest weapon available. Even Sun Tzu's emphasis on speed is economic. Speed is the essence of war, he writes. Not because speed is aggressive, but because speed reduces cost. Every day an army waits, burns money. Victory delayed is capital destroyed. Victory achieved through maneuver preserves resources. Flexibility, deception, psychological pressure, these aren't poetic ideas. They are fiscal discipline. Every decision carries opportunity costs. Sun Tzu doesn't oppose war, he opposes waste. And the greatest waste of all is fighting battles you never needed to fight. History validated Sun Tzu. Some states ignored him, pouring wealth into endless sieges that hollowed out their economies. Others used intelligence, alliances, and speed. They survived longer. The ones who treated war as honor burned out. This pattern didn't end in ancient China. It repeats the Soviet Union and Afghanistan, the United States and Vietnam, Europe in World War I. These wars weren't lost because armies were weak. They were lost because the economic models collapsed. Prolonged warfare destroys states faster than enemies do. Today's world still runs on Sun Tzu's balance sheet. Cyber warfare is Sun Tzu. Sanctions are Sun Tzu. Proxy wars and covert operations are Sun Tzu. Maximum pressure, minimum cost. Sun Tzu believed true power came from economic resilience, the ability to absorb shocks and keep functioning. He wouldn't recognize modern technology, but he would recognize the math. Sun Tzu wasn't teaching rulers how to win wars. He was teaching them how to avoid national bankruptcy. States don't fail because they lose battles. They fail because they drain the capital that holds society together. Victory is meaningless if the treasury collapses afterward. The best war is the one that doesn't require rebuilding your economy when it ends. The art of war isn't about aggression. It's about restraint. It's not about overpowering enemies. It's about outlasting them. Sun Tzu didn't glorify conquest. He glorified stability. Strength is not measured by how hard you strike, but by how much you can afford to strike. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it will cost you all the same. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.